as you look around your community, you'll notice we're still losing trees from the back-to-back years of drought in 2011 and 2012. And despite last year's fairly rainy season, much of Oklahoma continues to experience moderate to severe drought conditions. So this year we can expect to see even more tree mortality. It's more important than ever to plan for the replacement of our urban forest, which is the tree community we see throughout our cities and neighborhoods. As we think about protecting the urban forest, one of the things I consider is actually regeneration or rejuvenation, or the idea of replacing trees as they die out. That might be due to storm damage, as we've seen, or drought, but also age. Trees in Oklahoma tend to not live as long as their counterparts in more mild climates. But even so, trees are very slow growing. Behind me is a ginkgo tree that was planted in 1996. So despite being 20 years old, it's not that big yet. It still has a way to go before it's mature. However, you can imagine if we lost the pine tree next to it, this young tree is already fairly well on its way to replacing that pine tree visually and also providing the shade that the plantings below need to survive. Here we have another nice example of replacement in the landscape. In the background is an elm tree where previously we had had a hackberry tree, and that hackberry tree unfortunately died, but we already had the river birch and the pecan planted here. So when we lost the shade from that hackberry tree, these trees were already established and able to protect the shade garden below it. And now we've added the elm tree to someday replace these as they age and are lost from the landscape. Another consideration when you're planning for the urban forest is to maintain a diversity of species. I recommend no more than 10% of one species in the landscape, preferably planning for that on a community level, so working with neighborhood associations and educating people on the importance of diversity. And a great example of why that's so important is if we look back to what happened in the early 1900s, we saw entire neighborhoods lose their street tree plantings as Dutch elm disease killed all of the American elms. So to prevent such devastation, that species diversity will ensure that if something does come in and affect one tree species, we still have plenty of other trees to maintain the urban canopy. As you look around our shade garden, you see a nice example of this diversity where we have over 10 different tree species planted. And here we have a very beautiful aesthetic grouping. Now, if you're planning a tree planting project in your neighborhood, you might look to some of the resources offered by the Tree Bank Foundation. They have a variety of programs to support community plantings, providing shade at playgrounds and street plantings. They also have a special program for regenerating neighborhoods that were damaged by tornadoes. So if you're planning to do some tree planting, be sure to visit their website and see how the Tree Bank Foundation can help you.